What's up guys, Anurag here. Wow, it's been quite a while since I've said that, but yeah. Anyways, this is video number 100 by the way, and I'm glad I'm still making videos on this channel. It's been 8 years, so yeah, thanks for the love and support. But anyways, today we are talking about my EDCC, which is my everyday camera carry, which is this camera which I have been using for almost 5 years now. Now initially when I got this, it was for a different purpose. It was for making videos solely. So all the videos on my channel which were uploaded before 2024 and after 2019 were shot on this camera itself. But since last year, I've been using this camera solely for clicking pictures and documenting my life. Today we are going to be talking about this setup and how it helped me improve my photography in general. So yeah, let's jump right in. About a year ago, I was living in England and I started carrying this camera with me everywhere. It wasn't for a project, it wasn't for Instagram. I wanted to notice my life more, and there was no other better way that I could do it by, documenting my life using that camera and clicking pictures. A lot of pictures. So first let's talk about the setup, because I know most of you guys are interested in that, and then we'll move on to how it helped me improve my photography. So the camera itself is the Canon M50 Mark II. It is an APS-C mirrorless camera. It has a 24.1 megapixel sensor, and for the price, this is a pretty solid deal. Now in total, this whole setup will cost you at around 80 to 85,000 rupees, including the lens, which is significantly less as compared to the Fujifilm X100VI, which is also a camera that people use for documenting their lives. So the M50 Mark II is a pretty tiny camera. You can see that it fits in the palm of my hands pretty easily, and it is also very pocketable. The entire setup fits in my jacket pocket or my hoodie pocket very easily, and it is just so much less hassle to carry this thing around, say, as compared to my FX3, which is a pretty huge camera. Now the star of the show is the lens, which is the Canon EFM 22mm f2 lens. This is an EFM lens, so this was dedicatedly made for this camera, and to be honest, this is one of the best lenses that Canon have manufactured for that body. So the 22mm on the M50 roughly equates to around 35mm field of view, and that focal length is special because it forces you to work with your environment. It's wide enough to show context but close enough to stay personal, and this is where I got my first lesson of becoming a better photographer, because when you use the same focal length constantly, your eye starts to predict the frames before you even raise your camera, and that is when composition kind of becomes an instinct instead of guesswork. Now I also want to talk about something special that I've got on top of the lens, which is a filter. Now this filter is a black mist diffusion filter. It is an 1/8 strength filter, which is the lowest strength, and the basic purpose of this filter is it kind of lowers the contrast of the entire image and it gives your highlights this blooming effect. Now you usually see this effect on film cameras because of the vintage lenses, and this filter also gives you a very natural highlight roll-off, so it makes your images look very natural, especially when there's a lot of difference in lighting in the same image. Now this is where I learned the second lesson about photography, that is lighting. Now learning light was a pretty crucial thing while shooting with the M50 Mark II, because it does not have a huge amount of dynamic range, and if you mess up, you can't just fix it in post, which sounds like a limitation, but it actually helped me train my eye faster. Now I learned to look for soft windowed light, shadowed edges, reflected light off of buildings, and backlight during golden hour. See, what I'm trying to say is that you have to try to look for different patterns that the light is creating. Now a same room can be lit in 100 different ways, and you just need to know which one looks the most natural and also pleasing to the eye. I'm not going to cover photography in depth because it is something that you actually have to go out and experience for yourself. The tips that I give you might or might not work for you. You just have to try and experiment and see what looks good. Carrying a smaller camera is so much more frictionless than carrying a huge camera body out and about, and also when you have a smaller camera body, people around you don't notice you a lot, and it becomes easier to click pictures even when you are in crowded areas. Now this being such a small camera, it also helps you to quickly take it out of your pocket and try to capture the moment before it just passes away. That is one of the biggest plus points of having a tiny body and a very manageable camera setup. Now this entire setup on its own is a pretty good setup, and you obviously have been seeing a lot of pictures until now, and I just wanted to add a bit more flair to it, a bit more of a personal touch to it. So I've added a leather strap to this setup, which makes it look a bit retro, and I really like how the entire setup turned out to be. Hi, so while I was editing the video, I just realized that I forgot to talk about my camera settings. So most of the times I am, or rather 90% of the times, I'm mostly shooting in aperture priority mode. Now, what is the aperture priority mode? Well, it is basically the mode where you have to set the aperture manually, and rest all of the settings are set automatically based on the aperture that you set. Now, I found out that this is the quickest way to, expose a scene, because I only have to work with one dial, which is the aperture dial, and that is right next to the shutter button. And this helps me to quickly expose the scene and capture the moment right away. Now, the rest of the 10% of the times I'm using manual mode. That is only when, say, if I want to click something a bit more stylistic, something like a long exposure or light trails or something like that, that is when I use the manual mode. And yeah, I found out that this is the quickest way to click the best pictures with this setup. So I want to conclude this video by saying that when you're documenting life with your camera, you're actually training yourself to become a good photographer as well. You start looking at moving subjects in a different way. You start noticing how light bounces off of different things and how it creates different patterns. It gives you the confidence of being a bit more experimental and not worrying about the actual output. One more practice that I would suggest you guys should also implement is not looking at your pictures right away after you click them. Go on clicking pictures and then go home and then take a look at your pictures, because say for example, if there's a moment and you miss it, it will actually make you regret for not being a better photographer, and the next time you're trying to compose a shot, you'll be a bit more mindful. That is what I personally feel, and it has helped me become a better photographer in general. And eventually this will help you to build quicker reactions to different scenarios. So yes, this setup is simple, but it taught me how to see, and that changed everything. If you want to improve your photography, start by documenting your life, not just the highlight moments, but the ordinary ones, because one day that's not going to feel ordinary anymore. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you guys liked it, and if you did, do let me know in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.